Hello, everyone. Welcome to my first TikTok Live. I'm Sue with Carmine Media. We're talking tonight about women in leadership, how gender bias can affect the way we as women react in leadership, and how sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. This live is for you if you're struggling with imposter syndrome, being hurt at meetings, being rejected at work, having your ideas undermined, if you over apologize, if you're afraid to express your opinions, anything related to the way we were socialized as women and how that affects us at work. Now, tonight's live is my first. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at some notes. People have sent me in questions in advance, and I want to make sure that I get to those. But I also want you to type your questions in for me right there in the comments section. And I promise I'll try to get to all of them as soon as I can. So this is an Ask Me Anything. Some of your questions might end up in future videos if I don't get to them tonight. But let's start with some background about me. Maybe you know me, maybe you don't. Maybe I'm just showing up in your feed for the very first time. I'm Sue Reynolds. I am a certified executive coach. I have a degree in organizational leadership and over 20 years of experience in corporate nonprofit worlds. I'm also a speaker and trainer on business, and social media marketing is my day job. I have an online course that I created on leadership for women, especially for you, and it really goes into depth about a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm really excited to get started. So make sure to ask me anything. Hey, yippity doo Deb. I'm really glad that you're here. And yes, you're welcome. I'm glad that we're doing this. Just Carol Ann, welcome. Thank you. I'm so glad you're all here. I just can't wait to talk to all of you. This is going to be so fun. So like I said, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. I'm not trying to be rude. I want to make sure I get to everything. So let's get to our first question. One of the things that someone asked me about is how to control your emotions and be assertive and not aggressive. You know, a lot of you are interested in the difference between being assertive and aggressive. In fact, that's some of my most popular content on TikTok to date. I want to address being assertive as being not nice or acting like a man. A lot of women, a lot of us think that if we're assertive, we're not nice or we're acting like a man. That's not true. Being assertive is very important. And I just so happen to have a free worksheet for you on my website about the difference between being passive, being assertive, and being aggressive. And to date, that's my most downloaded worksheet. Lots of you are interested in that. I want to talk to you about the assertive backlash. We sometimes, unfortunately, we're penalized when we are assertive. And men get a boost when they're angry, and we are looked at with lower status and less competent. So I don't want to disregard the fact that there is an assertive backlash. But we can get around that, and there's a lot of things we can do to still be assertive at the workplace. One of the things we're not penalized on, interestingly, is body language or taking a commanding presence in a meeting. That doesn't harm our status at all. So I've done several videos about body language. And, you know, instead of being small like this, even if you might be freezing in the conference room, it's important to sit up straight like your mother told you and look people in the eye and be assertive. Use your body language. Take up space. You know how men are... the man spreading thing. I don't recommend that you do that, but take up some space in the room. Be at the table. You're not going to get penalized for that. So what I want to do is go through the difference with you tonight on what is assertive, what is aggressive, and what is passive. So assertive is when you stand up for yourself, okay? Aggressive is when you threaten or attack. There's a big difference between those two things. Assertive is when you are respectful and clear. I just finished a book that used the mantra, clear is the new kind. And I really like that because you can be respectful and clear. Aggressive is when you dominate and humiliate others. If you're honest, you're fair, you're direct, that's being assertive. If you're criticizing, finger pointing, That's being aggressive. And I'm pointing my finger at you right now. I'm not meaning to be aggressive. On the passive side, you can also over apologize for everything. And that's being passive. You can't agree with everything despite your personal feelings about it. That's being passive. If you try to control the group instead of participate in it, that's being aggressive. This is a really great way to understand the difference in the three feelings. Passive is, you're okay, but I'm not. Aggressive is, I'm okay, but you're not. And assertive is, I'm okay and you're okay. You want to match your body language with the folks in the room. You want to show them respect, but you need to show yourself that same respect when people are talking to you and you have opinions or ideas. Give yourself the respect that you would give others. So I wanted to go through that with you. Now, that's not the whole worksheet, but if you'd like the worksheet to print out, go to my website. Go to the link in my bio here on TikTok. There's a free worksheet you can download right from there. And you can print it out and remind yourself in case someone accuses you of being aggressive when really you're being assertive. So my next question, it looks like, how do you get your management to see your value? That comes in from Lannon73. That is a great question. That is something that I also talk to my clients about. Now, I'm a certified executive coach. I work with clients like you in the evenings on issues just like that. And I think that's a great question. How do you get management to see your value? First of all, they have to be able to see it. Now, many of us we put our head down, we work very hard, and we assume that leadership is going to notice our contributions and our value. Guess what? They're not. We have to make sure that our leaders are aware of the work that we are doing. Now, what I like to advise is that you have that conversation with your boss in advance. Go right into his or her office and say, how much visibility of my work do you need? Do you need to be copied on all my emails to stakeholders? Do you need to be invited to my meetings? Do you need to see my wrap-up notes? What visibility do you need from me? And then make sure that you're providing it. Don't just assume that they don't want to be bothered with emails, because sometimes they do. Their job is to make sure you do your job, and they can't do that without at least visibility. That's the word I like to use, visibility. Not necessarily you bothering them. You're getting paid to do a job. You're not bothering them by keeping them looped into your work. So make sure that they can actually see your value and that you're not hiding it. Many of us do that because we don't want to bother our management. That's a mistake. You will get passed by. Bring to light your value. Bring it up in meetings. CC your boss on emails. And if you lead a team, make sure that your boss is aware when your team has successes. So thanks for that question. I really appreciate that. That's an important question. Another question that came in advance, and this one is actually from my sister. She wants to know how to deal with mixed messages at work. So your boss tells you one thing, and then the person training you tells you something else. That's a great question, and that can be often a source of confusion. People need clear direction in organizational structures. If they don't have it, they get very confused, and then confusion leads to a toxic work environment. So how do you deal with mixed messages at work? Communication. If one person's telling you one thing and your boss is telling you something else, you go right into your boss's office and say, all right, I need help clarifying this particular thing. I'm getting this message from you. I'm getting this message elsewhere. Which is it? And then do what your boss tells you to do. You never want your boss blindsided by you doing something else and they didn't know it and they don't know why. You never want your boss surprised. Make sure you have your boss's support no matter what you're doing, and you will be fine. That gives you visibility, and communication is important. So I'm really glad that you asked that, Karen. Thank you. Another question that came in advance, and this one's important. How do you deal with conflict? What if someone crosses your boundaries at work? Now, if you're in a leadership role, you're going to have to deal with conflict. There's no way around it. It's important in this case, though, to keep, don't be angry, because remember, we get a backlash if we're angry. Instead, use observation as a tool. So if someone's crossing your boundaries, you could say something like, hey, this is what I observed. Is that what you intended? Very often it's not. Very often they'll say, oh, no. I really meant to do this. The other thing you can do is address the big fear in the room right away. If you kind of know why the conflict happened, maybe you got in an argument, maybe there was something about your values that got crossed. There's a big fear in the room. So let's say, for example, I'll make this up. Your team gets mad about a new rule and they all hate it and they're disrespectful to you about it. Now, when you go in and address that with your team, you could get that fear out of the way or that anger out of the way right away and say something like, you probably all think that I'm just trying to assert my authority here and push you around because I'm the boss. I bet that's what you all think. Guess what they do? Oh, no, we don't think that. No, we don't think that. That's not what we're trying to do here. You can get that fear right out of the way and then come back and say, you're right. That's not what I'm doing. This is the rule, and here's why we need to do it. So addressing conflict at work is a skill. It's best to be prepared ahead of time for responses like that. And sometimes if you can't necessarily deal with it right away, it's okay to say something like, you know what, let's take a break before we continue to talk about this. I need a minute to process all of this. I'll get back to you tomorrow or whatever. Let your temper, your anger, let it subside. There's actual studies that when someone is rude to you or you feel disrespected, you become dumber. And that's because chemicals start surging. You know the feeling. We can't process complex tasks when someone has been rude to us. We can't even do it if we look at or see someone being rude to someone else. We have to settle down and be able to process and get back into our own minds how to process that before we can act accordingly. There's a great podcast that I just listened to this week on NPR's The Hidden Brain. It's about a 50-minute podcast on how we react to people who are rude to us. And I bring this up because of the negativity or the conflict issue that we're talking about tonight. I recommend it. It's a really good episode, about 50 minutes of your time. NPR Hidden Brain, dealing with rude people. It's a great show. Okay, I've got a question coming in on what to do if the leadership team is ineffective. So that's a really good question. And unfortunately, or fortunately maybe, the only thing we can control is ourselves. So you can control how you react to that. You can try to manage up. You can try to make your boss do their job more effectively by bringing them solutions and not problems. So once you reach a midpoint in your career, if you're not entry level, it's really your job to bring solutions, not problems. So let's say you've got something going on at work. You approach to your boss and you say, this is how I'm going to handle that. Are you okay with that? Make sure you've got their backing. Like I said, you never want your boss blindsided. Once they say, yep, I'm okay with you handling it that way, then you go and do it. That proves two things. One, that you're capable of solving problems by yourself, but it also lets your boss in on how you're going to handle it. And they might just learn something from you. My mantra when I hire people is to hire people who are smarter than me and then get out of their way and let them do their job. I don't want to micromanage them, but I also can't be intimidated by them if they are smarter than me. So very often you might be smarter than your boss. Your boss is probably more skilled in institutional knowledge than you, but you may be more skilled in the actual job. And so manage up. Help them do their job more effectively. They will thank you for it. I promise you. Hey, Audrey, glad to have you. Thanks for joining. If you're just joining us, I'm Sue with Carmine Media. We're here discussing women in leadership and how gender bias can affect the way we present ourselves at work. This is an Ask Me Anything, so type your question right in the question bar right there. And you know what? If I don't get to your question, that's okay. I want you to email me at info@carminemedia.com. Your question just might be my next video. So let's keep going. Some of my most popular videos are about removing diminishers from communications. So they're about communications. So what are diminishers? Diminishers are things like, I'm sorry to bother you. I just thought maybe. What if we did such and such? A diminisher is when we literally diminish what we're about to say, or we, more bluntly, tell the person why what we're about to say might not be correct. And when you add those diminishers to your emails, you are lowering the chance of getting a response or getting the information that you need. So all of us have been conditioned to diminish our language. Gender bias exists, but we can do something about it by not diminishing our language. Now, this is a skill that needs to be learned because we're so ingrained in being nice or what we think as kind, when really we're not being clear. When you add a diminisher to your email or when you're talking to someone in person, you're being unclear. I just thought maybe we could do such and such. I'm sorry to bother you, but what if we did? All of those things make what you're about to say seem less important. And guess what? Your email gets deleted. Hey, Melbell, glad to have you here. I see you've asked a question. All right, here's a good one. Boss wants to promote me. I need to provide justification. How do I knock it out of the park? For money. Okay, so how to ask for a raise, how to prove your worth. Those are really big questions, and I don't know that I can answer them effectively tonight, but definitely I want to touch on them because those are great questions. First of all of us need to be keeping a list of our accomplishments throughout the year. I like to call it my awesome file. And secretly, when I'm having a bad day, it's kind of nice to get it out and look at it too. So in your awesome file, you're going to keep the things that you have accomplished and that your team have accomplished. Don't wait till the end of the year and it's time to report to try to go back and recreate all of that. Keep metrics on what you've accomplished. Now, why is that important? Those metrics, and they should include data, by the way, need to align with the goals of your leadership and your business as a whole. Figure out how what you've accomplished throughout the year align with the business goals. Now you're speaking the language of your company that you work for. Now you're going to go and do your research. What does somebody in your position with your level of experience, your education, and your knowledge earn in your job? And if you're nowhere near it, that's where you go in and ask to be brought up to market value. Excuse me. So be prepared with a number. How much money do you want to ask for? And also, what's your walkaway rate? Know when you're going to walk away. So really important questions. And negotiating for a raise takes confidence. So be prepared. Take time to do your research. Oh, here's a good one. Trish is asking about having a picture on your LinkedIn profile. I know that that's an important question. The answer is yes. No one trusts that person with the gray head. Now, it does offer up a way to judge you. They can tell probably how old you are by looking at it. They can tell what ethnicity you are by looking at it. All of that's true, and we tend to judge by those things. We're all human beings. None of us are without implicit bias. None of us. I do not recommend putting your headshot on your resume for that reason. But on LinkedIn, that is a social network. So yeah, you should have not only your picture, but also a cover photo that kind of speaks to what you do in a way that's artistic and fun. Show a little personality with it. But nobody trusts that gray head that's going to be there. You've got to show yourself and fill out that whole LinkedIn profile if you want to be taken seriously. So I'm really glad that you asked that. So yippity-doo Deb. She says, I think versus I suggest. What a great point. So I suggest means that you're putting your recommendation behind it. I think, or I think maybe, or I just thought, kind of willy-nilly, kind of wishy-washy, not so sure I really believe you. So that's a really good point to say I suggest or I recommend instead of I just thought maybe. Let's start doing that. You will notice better results in your emails. So I want to take the time, first of all, to welcome all the people who are new that just joined us. I'm Sue Reynolds with Carmine Media. We're here until 9:30 talking about gender bias in the workplace, talking about issues that affect women in the workplace, how we hold ourselves back sometimes with the language and the communications we've all been socialized to use. I want to remind you that I do offer one-on-one coaching on things like this to women just like you. You can see this is my office. This is what you'll see in the background when you're coaching with me. If you're interested in that, go to the link in my bio, fill out my intake form. I would love to work with you. I really love working with women and helping them reach their goals. So if you're interested in working with me, I'd be happy to have you on board. Okay. Do you offer coaching for a job search? Yes, absolutely. I specialize in career coaching. I will help you. Somebody just asked about LinkedIn. Part of what I offer is going through your LinkedIn profile, going through your resume. I can audit all of that for you and help you present your best self to your potential employer. Okay. Yes, Jesse wants to know how to handle flirty conversations from the men when you fear repercussion. That's a tough one. So really we're talking we're wading into sexual harassment. You know, your boundaries are your boundaries. And I do not suggest nor recommend that you use your sexuality at work to get ahead. You will pay a price for that, not only with your own integrity, but people are going to notice it and talk, and you're not going to have the respect that you want. So first of all, no, don't flirt back. If they're flirting with you, you can keep your boundaries intact. Do not flirt back. Be professional. If it continues, you can say that you're not comfortable with it. It's okay to say, hey, I felt like you were flirting with me a little bit. Is that what you intended? Remember, from earlier tonight, we talked about that. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Is that what you intended? I want to keep our work relationship professional, and I just wanted to make sure that that's where you were too. If not, that's a different conversation. Okay, let's talk about ruminating. One of the things that a lot of my clients come to me about is ruminating. So yes, we all make mistakes, but ruminating is when we go over it and over it and over it in our minds for days, and we can't get it out of our minds. The would've, could've, should've's, right? That is a form of abuse that you're doing to yourself. If you heard your friend saying the things that you say to yourself, would you let them talk to you like that? Or would you say, hey, you can't talk about yourself that way? Well, don't do that to yourself either. If you have a hard time stopping, one of the best advice that I got years ago was to literally set a timer and let yourself ruminate for 5 minutes. All right, right now I'm going to indulge in ruminating for 5 minutes. And then after that, I'm not allowed to do it again until tomorrow. So you got to make that promise to yourself. So let yourself indulge in it a little, and then that's it. No more ruminating. Because again, that's such negativity that you're really bringing yourself down. And very often what you're telling yourself isn't true anyway. I've heard of people looking out, especially women, when we're giving a presentation. Now, I can't see you right now, but let's say I could see you and one of you had a funny look on your face. And right away I think, oh, that's something, they don't like my presentation. They don't like what I'm saying. I take it personally. And the truth is, we never know what other people are thinking. There could be numerous reasons why they have that look on their face, but we have a tendency to take responsibility for it and then react to the story that we're telling ourselves. So I'm telling myself a story right now that person has a look on their face because they don't like my presentation. When it could be they don't feel well, they had a fight with their wife that morning, they're having trouble paying their bills. It could be anything. So don't ruminate over things that you don't even know are true. You don't deserve that abuse. So we're at 9:26. We've only got a couple more minutes here. I encourage you to ask your questions right there. Yep, in the comments section. Hey, flying purple beer drinker. Hey, I'm glad to have you there. Let's see. How can you approach exclusionary tactics in the workplace? So I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you saying that people are deliberately excluding you from things? I'd like to learn more about that. So perhaps you could clarify or email me at info@carminemedia.com. That's a really important question, and I want to make sure I answer it correctly and make sure that I address it the way you want. Being excluded from information. Oh, we're talking about knowledge hoarding. You've got somebody knowledge hoarding in your organization. Right. That's usually about power, and what's behind that is usually fear. When somebody doesn't want to share information, it's because they're afraid that they will lose value by sharing it with you. And so if you address that fear, that's going to go a long way to help get rid of the knowledge hoarder. I understand when it's a toxic work environment, when people are scrapping for resources, or if the business is struggling, you can very often encounter knowledge hoarders. They're afraid that they're going to lose their job and they're not going to help you do yours. So if you can, try to make sure that they understand you are not a threat to them, and keep asking for the information you need. If you're not getting it after several attempts, then you might have to CC your boss or their boss. It's important that you are getting paid to do a job. Your employer expects you to do it. So you need to do what it takes to get the information you need. I wish you luck on that one. I've worked with knowledge hoarders before. It is very uncomfortable. It's toxic. Hey, Christine, Realtor Mom. Hey, thanks for joining. I'm really glad to see you here. That's awesome. Love the hearts. All right. Before I let you go, I want to, boy, this has gone fast. I really appreciate all of your questions. If I didn't get to them, please email me, info@carminemedia.com. I can't wait to see your questions. You're going to give me some great ideas, maybe for some new TikToks. I'm super excited about that. And I want to thank each and every one of you for attending tonight. I also want to thank, I can't express enough how amazed I am and how thankful I am to the 85,000 of you that appreciate and support my content. I appreciate every single one of you, and I cannot wait to continue this discussion with you. I've been so amazed at the support that I've gotten from you over the past couple of years on this platform. It has warmed my heart. You have boosted my confidence. I couldn't do it without you. And I'm just so thankful for all of you. So send me your questions, please. info@carminemedia.com. Check out my website. I'm here to support you as a coach. I have a class on my website if you don't want to work with a coach. Leadership for Women is a class that you can watch independently. It's right there on my website. Great talking to you tonight. I want you all to have a great evening. Thank you very much. I will continue with these lives. We had a great turnout tonight. I will do another one. I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Love to all of you and good night.